Hi, this is Glenda, and today I'm making an upside down pineapple cake soap. I'm starting by making the pineapple slices. I'm using a little bit of soap dough. Soap dough is soap that has not cured. It has been prevented from being exposed to the air by being wrapped in plastic wrap and also being inside a seal container. And in this case, first I have to color it because I only have a very pale yellow. So I'm using some yellow Vibrance mica from Nurture soap, and I'm essentially just kneading it into it. At first I didn't add enough, so I did have to add more and keep kneading it until it reached the depth of color that I was looking, which is this one. To create the shape of the pineapple slices, I'm simply going to use some cookie cutters, and I'm looking for some that will fit inside the mold that I want to use. And I'm going to include a list of the supplies that I'm using in the description box below in case you want to look. I'm using a deli sheet, and if you don't have a roller, you can use anything that it's round. In this case, I'm using a candle at first, but that wasn't giving me, it wasn't big enough for this slice of pineapple. So later I used an acrylic large pipe. My first attempt was not successful because I had pressed too much into it, so this sheet of soap dough was too thin, so that after cutting it and trying to release it from the plastic wrap, I actually distorted the shape, and as you can see, it's still stuck to it. So I actually started over and I rolled another sheet of soap dough, and I left it a little bit thicker so that I wouldn't have an issue removing it from the plastic after using the cookie cutters. I could have also used cornstarch to help prevent the soap dough from sticking to the surface. Instead, what I did is that I used more of the yellow mica so that it will help it not stick to the surface. And then it was a matter of adding the texture to the pineapple. Next, I'm moving on to the making of the cherries. I already had some red soap dough. However, it wasn't as deep or as strong of a red color as I wanted it to be. So after making my first one and not liking them, I added a little bit of red neon pigment to the soap dough, and that gave me a brighter red for the cherries. After making them, I also dabbed a little bit on the outside to help with the effect. I also sprayed them with alcohol to make them shiny. This is the recipe that I will be using for the soap. It's a 40% lye concentration, so it has a smaller amount of water, and the super fat is only 3%. So this recipe will probably trace fast. To make soap, I wear neutral gloves and also a facial shield. I will be testing two fragrances with this soap. The first one is Satsuma, which is what I have on screen, and I'm just measuring out enough for 1 bar. I will be using yellow Vibrance mica as the colorant, and I'm going to add it to the oils first. I added 1 teaspoon of that directly to the oils, and I'm just going to stir that in. I stir it for a while, and then I'm going to use this stick blender, but only briefly, enough until the mix reaches emulsion. I'm pouring 4 ounces of soap batter into the container that had the Satsuma fragrance on it for the 1 bar that I'm testing, and then to the rest I'm adding the pineapple fragrance. This used to be called pineapple fragrance formulator, and I think now it's just called pineapple fragrance. It's meant to be used in blends, but you can also use it by itself, and I want to test it by itself to see how it reacts and how long it lasts, whether it fades or not, before using it in a blend. Okay, I'm gonna let this sit for 5 minutes just to see if the fragrance does anything to it.
So it's been 5 minutes, and the one with the satsuma, oops, as you can tell, it's still fluid, it's light. It may be almost at trace, but not very much. Now the one with the pineapple feels thicker, and it's definitely at trace.
Which means that with my recipe, I shouldn't attempt to do any complicated designs with the pineapple fragrance. With other recipes, it may behave well, and if it had more water, it could behave well. It's just with my particular recipe, it's going to move a little bit faster. However, it was well worth it because this has become one of my favorite fragrances. I love how it smells. It smells just like a ripe pineapple. And even though it has a small amount of vanillin, it has 0.3%. It did not get too dark. I'm gonna post a picture at the end of how they look later. And it's been almost 2 months since I made this soap, and it's still strong, and I really liked it. I did add some final details to the bars with some copper mica, or actually bronze mica, that I dispersed in some alcohol. I added some details to make it look like if the sugar in the pineapple had caramelized in the oven, since this is an upside down pineapple cake. I'm very happy with this soap and how it smells. Thank you for watching. Thank you for visiting my channel. I'll see you next week. By the way, next week's video will be part of a collaboration with a dozen other soap makers, so don't miss it. It's gonna be really special. See you then. Bye.